Hello, everyone. Hey, thanks for coming to this webinar. Thanks for being here. I know people might trickle in and out during the webinar. We're really excited to share some of these awesome things with you all. We've been trying to put these things together in a good way to share. This session will be recorded, so if you feel like you want to come back to it, or things like that, or you've got to go early or anything like that, this will be recorded, and I'll be sending that out as well. But today we're going to talk about the project scaling blueprint, which is essentially we've worked with Salt Lake City Public Utilities, and we've helped them scale from roughly 20 million, managing 20 million in projects a year to around 200 million in projects a year. It's kind of a really neat story, and so we wanted to share that story and the methods and strategies and principles we've used to help them with that project. I've invited Ron Fetters here to help present. He was the solution architect on the project. We've been working together for 30 years. And so he's here to present a little bit on that as well. And we're going to talk and have a good time with this. We'll try to stick to around an hour for the presentation. We will show we will show demos of the system that we built for Salt Lake that you can implement some of these things we've built. But we'll also show a simpler Power Apps version of the solution as well. So as we're showing things, don't feel like it's built in SharePoint, but don't feel like you can't take the same principles and things and build them in Power Apps as well. And so that's kind of why I wanted to show a simpler Power Apps version of this. But I'll go ahead and share, and we will get started here. I've never done the Teams webinar, but I think I like it better. I did my last webinar I did last month. I feel like it was through YouTube, and I just don't think it works super great. But yeah, let me get the presentation up here, and I will share my screen. Okay, I'll bring Teams over here. Yep, I like Teams much better. Okay, so here's our presentation talking about the project scaling blueprint. Let's talk a little bit about Salt Lake City's story really quick. So Salt Lake City, if you didn't know, is the capital of Utah, and they've got about 400 employees, and the let me be more specific. Salt Lake City Public Utilities is the specific company, not the whole city, right? So the Public Utilities Department of Salt Lake City, they've got around 400 employees, and they mostly deal with four different utilities. So drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, and streetlights. And that's for all of Salt Lake City, which is quite big. Yeah. Just to give you an idea of how much they're managing and how much they really do with the drinking water alone, they're serving 352,000 people. That's numbers probably a little bit different now, even handling a lot of gallons of water each day. Here's a little bit of a neat image of Salt Lake City here and all the different things going on. Um, they also have the waste for wastewater. They're dealing with a lot of sewer and sewer lines and everything, right? So there's just a ton going on. They've got a lot to deal with, and there's a lot of complexities that come along with this and the company and everything that they're doing. Let me move that over there. Okay. To go into the challenge that they were facing, and this was quite a few years ago. But these are some of the challenges that they were facing is they were experiencing a lot of increased growth. For Utah in general is still growing a lot. And so they had to start to deal with that growth. They've got older infrastructures that they're having to deal with, some resource competition, and they were getting more of a push for with their systems to have more accountability and transparency in their systems. One of the other big things is they needed to build MGD stands for 56 million gallons of water per day. And that's a water reclamation facility that's going to handle 56 million gallons of water every day. So it's just a massive facility that they needed to build to help deal with all this increased growth. And so they're realizing that their processes and their systems that they were using weren't exactly the best, and they needed to improve those. So here's a kind of a look at what they were dealing with to make those improvements. So they needed to have not very many staff increases, which is tricky for our full-time employees. And there we go. Maybe I won't cough now. And they can augment their staff with contracted personnel, right, with different construction companies and engineering firms to come in to help with needing to do more projects. But they needed to keep their actual full-time employees to not increase too much. And so the main thing that they needed to do to be able to handle more projects was improve their processes. And so here's a little snapshot at kind of the timeline here from 2014, 2024. So they have FTE for full-time employees. So they only increased a little bit in full-time employees, but they were able to do just so much more in projects over the course of those 10 years as they started to improve their systems and their processes. And so it's a really neat story about how when we're building these solutions, they really can have a big impact on things. And so that this has been a cool thing to see how SharePoint, the Power Platform, really can help um, make these big of a change. Here's their challenges with their system that they were facing. So with project documents were just scattered across folders and spreadsheets and emails and getting stored on their computers. Some of their approval processes were taking 35 or more days to actually get done, and they have quite a few different approval processes, right? But they're taking a while to actually get completed. When they've needed to have external companies come in, external users, mostly engineers and contractors to help with their projects, those people that were coming into Salt Lake's world had limited and consistent access to all the project information, the documents and things, and managing all those different things going on with the external users. Their
And
project,
hey Ben,
yeah, kind of.
I would even add that and maybe some of you have these kind of worlds where really it was all down to email, right? So I'm emailing everything. If I want to know if the contractor wants to know what's going on, they're emailing me. If the engineer wants to know what's going on, they're emailing me. And most of their projects were external engineers designing the solution, the contractors coming in and building, redoing pipe, redoing systems. And so, but just think of that. Everything was kind of done either paper coming in, like real paper coming in, or emails with documents attached, going back and forth, and that kind of world. So it's super hard to really know what's going on.
No, yeah, thanks for adding that. Cut in whenever you like. Um, as far as some of these other manual processes, when they needed to create a new project, each project needs a new number. It needs to and then all the templates going along with those projects and the various workflows handled manually, right? So that's not super helpful. So whenever that's you're dealing with things manually, it usually leads to more errors and things not being more inefficiencies as we've put there. And then when the decision-making teams needed to make decisions, they had to rely on, right, the paper processes, the emails, all that they needed to gather a bunch of different information to help make these decisions on what contractors are going to come in, what budgets are going to be increased, and things like that, right? There's a lot of information that they needed to have available to make those decisions, and not having it organized in a good way really slowed down that decision-making process. And Ron will talk more about that specifically, but here's the result of after they've worked, been working with us and getting some of these systems and processes improved and in place, is they were actually able to scale from roughly 20, 40 million in projects a year to around 200 million. It changes every year, right? But they're able to manage just a lot more in projects with the minimum staff increases, which is pretty cool. There was a lot more transparency, so that data and that information was able to be seen a lot easier and is more accessible to especially the executives, but also the project teams. If you're a member of the project team, if you're the project manager, you're able to see the information that you're needing. And we'll show this in the demo in just a little bit. Um, and then decision-making speed was one of the biggest ones too, that when you're dealing with projects, right, the things that can hold up a project are just those key decisions that need to be made. And so as the time it took to be able to make a decision so that the project could continue on, those delays were reduced a lot, which allowed things to just keep moving, right? Allowed people to just keep working on the projects and doing what they needed to do. And that helped get more projects on schedule and help them start more projects. The last one is the user adoption. So with any new system, I'm sure a lot of you watching this are familiar with this, right? It's you can build the most amazing thing in the world, but people actually need to use it for it to be effective. And so the cool thing that we are able to do with them was, and that they still do, is do biweekly training sessions to help people, not only the new users, but the existing users know how to use the system and are really familiar with it. Um, and of course, it always helps to have the system be a little bit more intuitive with how it actually looks and how it works. Here's a little snapshot that for one of their processes. So for invoices, historically, they were doing about 37, or it's taking 37 days to complete an invoice. And then the new results is now it's taking about, some months it takes 15 days, some months it takes 10 days to process an invoice, but that the time it took to actually go through the whole invoicing process was just reduced a ton, which is super neat, right? I think I really love that whole world of seeing how processes can improve. That's why I love the Power Platform. I love these charts. They make me happy. uh, Here is now we'll talk about the blueprint that we like to call it that we use to help create a system that's similar to this one. So the system we're showing, lots of these things that we'll show, you can definitely apply in lots of the solutions that you're building for your company or you're building for other companies. And so these are some of the key things that we used and that we learned from doing this project. And the first one is, and feel free to jump in at any time, Ron, too, but we have executive involvement. That's kind of key to have the buy-in and the help and the support from executives to give the right information, to help support how the system is going to work and what needs to really happen. Another one, and this is one that we see a lot talking about this. This is a, if you've heard of, there's different, the 80/20 rule is a rule that it goes across different industries actually. So it's applied to lots of different things with marketing and all these other things, right? But for this scenario, the 80/20 rule for implementation means you are building the process around what happens in that process 80% of the time and not worrying so much about those more complicated um, times where the invoice is extra complicated and weird on 20% of those invoices, right? So you're dealing with, hey, what during this process, what happens 80% of the time, and we're going to build a process around that, and we're not going to build it to handle all these other extra unique scenarios and situations, right? Sometimes when building Power Apps or whatever we're building, we try to make it handle every single possible scenario, right? And that makes things so complicated, so takes so long to build, and it can end to it can lead to just a lot of complications and difficulties in the future. And so that was a rule that we followed as we were building things for Salt Lake. And so that's really helpful to say what are most of the processes looking like, and let's build around that. And then we'll have the exceptions, and we'll have to deal with those. Um, the next one is staged implementation of the new practices. So this is as we were transitioning them from their old system and their old processes to the new ones, we did it in a staged approach. And so this was introducing one new process or solution at a time, having small groups use that solution to start with, and then get more and more people to use that at a time. It was kind of this slow, gradual thing to let people slowly acclimate to the new system in a good way. And I know that that depends on the different solution and thing you're building, right? Sometimes you can do it all at once, but for this type of a thing, for this big of a thing, it was really helpful to do things one at a time with sometimes a smaller group at a time. And then, right, training, providing the right training to really help people use the tools. Lots of the times we like to include a so helpful thing that I share during trainings or other sessions is having a button for help to know, hey, how do I actually fill out this form, or how do I actually do this? And you've got the documentation there. You can click a button to know how to do that, but you've also got training sessions to let people know, hey, this is how you should use the system, right? And that's really helpful to have. So that's one of our key principles as we're implementing a system like this that can be just so helpful. The last one or the next one is we or they combined together as a team evaluated different competencies for the users. So we would help the people that were maybe not as tech savvy or not as used to SharePoint or things like that, to help them get used to it, to help build the system so that it was really simple and easy for anyone to use, right? Sometimes if you're an engineer, you're working on the different projects, you're not dealing with the technology as much, and so that those tools and those systems need to be really easy for those people to be able to use. Sometimes things are super intuitive because we're in Microsoft all the time, we're in Teams and everything, but then like me, when I switch to Google or something like that, I'm even like, what is going on here? So that's really helpful to have the system be really easy to use for all these different people that are coming in to use it. And the last one is employee involvement to really help narrow down what does the process need to look like, getting feedback from them on what's working and what's not working. That's super helpful, getting constant feedback from employees as well. Um, there's kind of three things that we're going after when we're building this type of system, and I'm almost done, and then we'll do the demo part, which is I think the more exciting part. Um, the three things that we really were going after with this was more transparency. So right? Like Ron was saying, when the data is in emails and in paper and spread out across different people's computers, and there's different versions of files just kind of everywhere, and you don't know which one's the right one, right? So having the transparency means you're able to see all the information that you need, and everyone's seeing that same information. Um, Also with decision making, so those there's these key processes that really help move things along faster, and targeting those and really helping those processes be easier makes things go much faster. So that's another one that we were going after, is making those decision making processes a lot easier. And finally, the last one, we hear it all the time, collaboration with projects. One of the biggest things is collaborating, being able to work together with your team. And a lot of times that means if you're on the same page with the right data, you're able to collaborate on the different documents that you're working on in a good way. That's vital, right? If as soon as you start to have to worry about the document and the information and the different processes, and that becomes a big stressor. That just adds a whole other weight that you don't need when you're trying to do all these projects, right? And with their projects, they have dozens and dozens of documents for each project, right? These are big projects lots of the times. And so being able to collaborate on all those different documents and all the different data going on is super helpful. So for each pillar, we'll kind of talk about the what, so the method and strategy to help with each of these pillars. Um, the why is it important? I kind of just covered that already as well, and we'll have a demo. They all kind of combine together though. They all mesh together really well. So as we go over the demo, then we will, Ron's going to go over the demo and kind of mesh all these together into one because they really all work together. But I do want to make sure that it's clear. So we've implemented lots of these same types of things for companies that are managing projects, but also managing and dealing with lots of different processes. So it could be manufacturing and other different companies as well, right? So lots of these concepts can still be applied to different industries. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be with projects. I think that's it. I'll stop sharing my screen and you can share your screen. I think we'll stop there and I'll hand the mic over to Ron and he can start presenting.
Awesome, great. Yeah, anyway, good introduction. Again, that project started just over 8 years ago, and so they continue to grow. That treatment plant turned into being more with COVID. They worked through COVID, and so I mean, that treatment plant is almost $1 billion. It's a little less than that. But giant project to try to manage, again, so much going on with just that one project and all the other things that they were doing. So I will say, so some of these principles that we're talking about with this transparency, decision making, collaboration, and we'll just kind of talk through some components that could be in anybody's system that are important. And so one of the first things they did was they started to build what they call their project delivery and standards. So they just, to me, the simple answer is it's all your templates. So all the templates and the processes that you're using, maybe you don't have a fancy system, but you do have a place, a managed place where all our templates live. And it sounds obvious, but in a lot of times it's not the case. And again, we built a little tool. This is a SharePoint library. It's got all their documents that are here. They have a little bit of fanciness to just show a picture of, hey, here's the steps that we go through. So this was helpful on training so that people knew, okay, during procurement, here's what we're going through. Here's the steps that we're taking. And then I can see and look at any of these templates and documents that are here. The other added thing is if these templates are locked down, you know how sometimes that goes. Templates get kind of crazy and I'm copying it, I'm using this and changing it to my own liking. If there's a template that people have a requested change, so it's managed and controlled so that I can say, hey, you know what, this it would be good if we did this, this, and this. So I can submit a change, and then those changes can be reviewed and implemented so that everybody gets that same one place. So again, that's helping with the transparency, helping with the decision making on who's in charge of the template and keeping that all clean and good. So that's one principle, is just having the templates in a place. Again, these are the delivery templates. They also have specifications, standard practices, so they'll have all their templates kind of in one place. So that's one principle of the system. Another thing that probably helped them the most in their decision making was having a process to do that. And they originally they had a SharePoint site. So again, they've got at any one time they might have 60 to 70 projects going on all at the same time, and so they're all being managed. All these different projects are being managed, and there's decisions to be made. Who is going to be the engineer? Who's going to be the contractor? We need to get it out for bid. We need to get it out. We need to approve it. There's a change orders, all these different things, key decisions that executives need to make, those just, to approve, are all being done. And so they were having a meeting, and they were kind of trying to grab everything. But again, we had a system to try to help that process so that for any given meeting date, they can see, here's the things that we need to approve, here's the things that we need to work on. And so this is from an old time that they could come in and look at the workflow, which is project specific, and they can say the project manager will fill it out, an administrator will make sure all the documentation's done, and then the committee will look at it and decide on what they're going to do. Again, everything is here. If there's an amendment, they're showing that. If there's information and dates, they're showing that. They're filling out information on what the things are that they need to decide on. And then as it gets as it gets approved, and any key documents are also here. So instead of just saying, hey, there's a document out there to, go look at it, and where is it? I don't know where it's at. Here's a link to it. Instead of that, this list item in SharePoint is a CCRC item, and that allows me to track all the things going on, all the tied in documents that are there for that particular project. And so they can view all of those, they can review and approve them, and take care of those. So really super helpful to have a place to make their decisions. They call it a CCRC, but that's where they make the decisions and approve it. They're in an hour-long meeting. They go through everything and present and approve that. That has helped them stay on track tremendously as well. So that's been another key tool for both collaboration, bringing everything together, all the information, the decision making, and the transparency, as knowing exactly what's going on. So again, even knowing what projects you have, knowing what status they're in, sometimes, you have smaller projects and you just want to kind of see they might take only, 3 weeks to do or 6 weeks to do, but I kind of want to see that progress. Some of their projects will take multiple years to complete, right? So they'll have projects that are taking different years. So as they're working on these projects, again, you're seeing dollars here of just what the estimate was. And so they're building and working on those projects. And again, I can link into one of those projects and take a look at it, which is this page here is a page that we're calling the project homepage. And for any given project, this is just a sample project, any given project, I can see some things all about this project. They're mostly focused on documents. And so I'm just seeing all the documents that are in the system. And if different roles will see different documents based on the security. So all that's set up front. There's information there. The people that are involved in this project are all identified. And so any workflow that starts that I need the engineering lead, it's going to send it to the engineering lead. If I'm sending something, this is a test one, so sorry for the strangeness of it, but if I'm sending it to the construction lead, anything that requires a construction lead, I've identified all those people for those particular project, for this particular project. And so when I start a workflow, it will bring in those correct people. Again, it's the roles coming in. I've those roles have already been decided, and I'm bringing those in to the process. Sometimes your processes aren't like that, and you're picking people along the way. But in this case, they decide the people that are involved, and then we're bringing those people in for approvals, and to see what's going on. So as I create workflows, and again, over time, these are all the various workflows that are just very similar processes. So if I'm creating a workflow, it'll be there. Um, Ben talked about the invoice. So if I'm doing an invoice or if I'm requesting an invoice, so if I'm an engineer and I want to be paid, then I'm just filling out the information. Not only am I not just sending my invoice, so I am going to attach the invoice down here. So I'm going to attach the invoice, but I'm also going to say, hey, here's my invoice number. Here's how I'm doing. Here's my agreement amount. And am I over or under? Am I doing my work? Which is usually what people want to know when you're sending an invoice, right? It's like, I'm paying you $1 million. How much work have you done? What percentage have you done? You're billing me for this much. And so it's a simple way for them to for them to track that. So again, another key principle that we use all the time, that it helps with the transparency, it helps with the decision making and the collaboration I'm just showing in any workflow, I'm showing who is it going to go to. So if I'm the engineering lead and I'm getting ready to submit my invoice, oh, I'm seeing, okay, it's got to get approved by the project manager, then the program manager, then the finance admin, deputy director, and then the finance, and then it goes to finance before I get paid. Okay, it might take a while. That's why when Ben showed it has taken 10 days, it used to be that these documents had to get passed around on somebody's desk and got lost, and it's just kind of a crazy. That's why it could take 37, 45 days. So again, the clarity of right now it's on this step, it's going to go to these other steps, being able to see that nice and easy anywhere along the way. I know what's coming before or what came before and what's coming after me, and it makes it easier to take care of this and submit that. So that's part of the process that we're following all the time on all of our processes have this same kind of thing. And that again, like Ben said, this is something you could apply to your own world, making sure that any of your workflows you're showing what steps are happening. Um, Again, a couple other principles for the clarity and transparency is just being able to see things like what are my projects. Ben talked about, in their case, contractors are coming in. Now, engineers, uh, you know, I'm a computer engineer. There's mechanical engineers. There's water engineers, and that's who's really coming in and designing what has to be done. But some of the contracting companies, these are people they're the ones that are going out and digging a hole in the ground and pulling up the pipe. They're amazing at what they do, but sometimes technically, they need a system that they can come in and just easily get in. And so for the most part, they're not going to see the external folks are not going to see everything. They're only going to see what they need, which is really they're going to come to my projects and my actions, and everything from there is what they see. They don't see everything else. So that's all they need to see is their stuff. So they'll have a simplified list of their projects, and then they'll have a simplified list of things that are waiting for them. So if I need something from them, um, I I'll submit something and it'll wait for them. So for instance, if I need a request for information, the contractor needs information. He creates a request. It goes to the engineer, and the engineer then gets an email and tells them, hey, come to the system. So instead of the only thing we're using emails for is just a notification. And so the notification lets me come to this place. And then this place shows me all the things that are waiting for me. Again, I have a lot to do that I haven't done in a long time, so sorry for that. But here's all kinds of all the different workflows that are happening. These are waiting for me to do something. So anyway, that's out here as well. Um, and if we come back to the project, I guess I left the building and um, came to the project. Um, so as I'm looking, let's see, let's just go back to my project. Um, Ben mentioned that as I'm coming to this project, he mentioned some things like, trying to make things easier and having the templates be easier. And so part of what we're doing here is I'm uploading files, and when I upload a file, and you've seen this if we're dealing with SharePoint and regular libraries, you load something in, if you have good data on all your files, it's super nice, right? Everything is laid out, you have metadata, it sounds like everything should be great. The trouble is, if you don't have a solid way of putting your data in, then all of a sudden you just got a bunch of files and people didn't fill out what they were supposed to. They were supposed to, but they didn't, then you kind of get in trouble. In this world, yeah, there's a place they can go and drop in and manage a bunch of files, but for the most part, they're just loading one file at a time. And this just makes sure that they're putting in the tag. So I can't really load it until I fill out everything. And so this is making sure all of that process is handled. Now, this whole process of having the right categories, again, we're not having a bunch. This is just a certain phase category, and a doc type. And that's it. I'm not trying to have you fill out 10 things. But because I'm in my project already, it's already tagging it with that project. Because I'm already in a certain thing, it's already tagging it in a lot of ways. It knows who I am. So there's a lot of goodness in that, as being able to know that. So that's loading a file. I can do that. So having a way to do that is a good key. And then also a template. um, Templates are super powerful, like we said, right? So we know where those templates are. But even if you have a one source for those templates, sometimes being able to know where are those templates at? Okay, I got to go get it. I got to copy it into the right place. I got to name it right. Did I put it in the right place? All of that. We take all that away by being in this, because I'm in this project. Um, because I'm in this project already, then whatever I load is at that project. Um, so if I add a template and I can choose again, I'm choosing from a phase, I'm choosing from this template, and now I can come in and copy that template, and then it just shows up in my library. So it's just kind of taken, there's things you can do different ways, but this is the way we do it here is just, I want to be able to add the template. I want to be able to pull it in and be able to use it and do it. So I hit copy, copies it in, and then shows up here. So that's good. Um, I think that anything else, Ben? I think that was kind of what I was going to run through. Um,
I
projects,
don't think so.
projects home. I think that's about some of the main features of trying to keep track of what's going on. So again, having a library, having your templates in a good place, being able to have your workflows have clarity on who it is that it's going to, using email as a notification, not as a mechanism to really send things around. Because again, SharePoint has good features in it, which is, we're working on this document. I can share this link. We can all work on it together. We can update it together. All of that now has come a long ways, right, in your worlds if you're using that. But having it in a place that is clear, as opposed to where's that file at? Oh, it's on your OneDrive, or it's on his OneDrive, or it's where is it? It's still finding it is still key, right? And so this organizes so every single thing is in this world. It's in this project and in this place. So creates the clarity, creates the transparency and helps with decision making. So back to you, Ben.
No, thanks. That was awesome. I'll share so the just to make it clear too, um, so I'm sharing my screen here. So that whole system was a mix of SharePoint and custom development with SharePoint framework. And Power Automate was also in the back end of that, which of course can't see. But I think I didn't mention that. But the Power Automate is in the back end of a lot of those processes, sending notifications and doing some of the automations that are happening. During all of that. But that lots of those things that we've just showed, they can be applied to Power Apps too, right? As I was mentioning at the very beginning. And so here is a super simple, much simpler app or solution than the one we just showed. But I wanted to show that, hey, these things are still possible. Um, with whether you're using like a custom web parts SharePoint framework, or you're using a Power App to do these things, right? You can implement these same types of principles and methods um, with other tools, specifically Power Apps, of course. So I won't show everything. We don't have to go over everything again. And this definitely isn't doing the same exact things as the one we just showed, but this is a basic little project tracking application, and we've taken a lot of these strategies that we've done with Salt Lake and we've applied them to this app that helps track projects. And this one's a bit different, right? It's customized. This one is dealing with clients. It's dealing with tasks and milestones and time, so entering time for the different projects that are being worked on. These, I filtered it down, so I've got different views here, right? I can look at the different budgets for the projects or the tasks or the milestones. So that's kind of the view we're on right here. I filtered it down to just our little example projects here. But the neat thing, one of the things that I mentioned it a very long time ago on LinkedIn. So if you've seen that, that would be crazy. But it's this idea of when you have a big giant app like this, you actually can separate it into multiple apps. So this app you're seeing here, this one is just showing you, hey, here's all your projects, here's all your clients, here's all the different milestones and tasks for you to look at. But once you actually go to a project, that is opening up a separate app. And so as I go to a project, if I click on one of these, it will open up a completely separate app. And there's not one app for each project. That would be crazy, right? I can't even imagine how crazy that would be. But there's one app that will pull in the data of the selected project. So regardless of what project I open, it will still go to this app, and this app will say, oh, you in the other app, you clicked on this project right here, Project Central V5, whatever the project is, and I'm going to go and grab the information about that project and pull it in. And so that's what's super cool about this. It not only makes the app run smoother, um, but that's really one of the main reasons of doing this is it lets it really run smooth because I've got one app handling so much stuff, and then I've got this other app that's handling everything, but it's on a different level, right? Now it's on the individual project level. Now I'm looking at the individual milestones or time or details about that project. And similar to what we just showed in the Salt Lake version, we still upload files here. I'm using Power Apps to upload the files. This is all a little wigged out, so don't pay attention to these buttons over here. I'm not being centered. That's always going to bug me. But it's doing a lot of those same things. We're doing it in different methods, but we're still doing the same system and strategy with things. So when I'm uploading files, I'm using Power Automate to upload multiple files at the same time. I'm adding templates. So I can add templates to those different files. On here, we need to make sure when they upload a file, they're tagging the documents with the right metadata, right? So that's something you can do as well. Um, but this works really great in Power Apps too. It connects to SharePoint really well, connects to the different um, documents and everything, manages things in a really good way. Power Apps has come a long way with how it works, and it's you're able to do more and more with it. And it's really a super awesome tool. SharePoint as well. So we've loved uh, using these same strategies in lots of the different work that we've done, and we've been wanting to share lots of these strategies with you all. And so we're really excited. We're probably going to do this again to keep sharing these types of things, maybe diving in a little deeper in certain areas to show, hey, this is how we made the app work with, two different apps and things like that. So we want to keep sharing more things. The last thing I'll go over here, we're ending earlier than I thought, but I don't think anyone will complain about that. Usually it's the opposite. Usually you go over time here, but so I'll end with one last thing here. Um, this is the last final little thoughts with everything. We go to the end here. It's restarted us. Um, but the last thing I wanted to mention is if you're wanting some help with implementing this blueprint that we have, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me with my email or on LinkedIn if you'd like. If you had questions about the webinar, you can reach out. If you're trying to do something specific, you can send me a message. And if you've got questions from everything, you can send me a message. We will send the recording of this to you. But we like to implement this system with lots of other companies, whether they're project based or they're manufacturing companies. So if you're needing help implementing the same system that we've kind of done for Salt Lake, if you'd like to talk to us about how that can kind of work, we'd love to dive even deeper into the what we've done for Salt Lake and other companies, and show you kind of what's possible with these different tools. Something we didn't mention too much, I don't think, is dealing with electronic signatures. So lots of times we need to have those people need to actually digitally sign things. So that's something that we figured out pretty well with using SharePoint and Power Automate and other tools like Adobe Sign and things like that to be able to do. But yeah, that's kind of the invitation there. Hope you guys have really gotten something from this webinar. It's been really fun to talk and share things. I know a lot of the times I just share things on LinkedIn and the different posts that I do. And though I love writing things out, it's really fun to just talk and be on camera, and you can actually see me as a real person instead of the Lego version of me that you're used to seeing in all my posts. So, anyways, thanks so much for being here. And reach out with any questions. We'll send the link to the recording of the webinar if you like, and we'll see you next time. See ya.